love you, Cleveland.
I love you, Cleveland. And I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network, brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith, and welcome. We're really excited about today's show. Nick Padone will be joining us in just a minute, but first of all, hello to you, Ryan, and I hope you're staying warm.
Yeah, no, I'm not, Bruce. But good morning. It's still a good morning every time I get to walk into Burke Lakefront Airport and do bonus time with Bruce Drennan. But no, Bruce, I am not staying warm, my friend.
We've got so much to cover on today's show, and indeed, I want to get to all of it as quickly as possible. So let me welcome now Nick Padone, who, of course, is one of the hosts of the Big Play Cleveland show, as well as being program director here at the Big Play Sports Network. And hello to you, Nick. Thanks for joining us this week. We wanted to incorporate you following these two championship games and looking at the general Browns situation. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Bruce. Excited to talk a little football with you this morning.
Well, let's start with the Cleveland Browns, where we now know that McCarthy is going to Pittsburgh, and it looks like we're down to two candidates in Schwartz and Schwartz. McDaniel refused to do a second interview instead of taking or being seriously considered for a head coaching job in the National Football League with the Cleveland Browns. He decided that it was better for him to take a coordinator's job with the LA Chargers. What does that tell you? Udinski withdrew his consideration of the Cleveland Browns. Minter withdrew his consideration of being head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And Chris Shula just came right out and said, I'm not interested at all. No, thank you. What does all this tell us? I guess Cleveland isn't one of the most sought after positions in the NFL, Nick.
Bruce, I'm surprised they haven't given you a call yet, man. What's your availability looking like this fall on Sundays? You willing to put on the headset and the call sheet one time?
They couldn't afford me.
They do have a track record of paying out those contracts, though. You might really only have to work another year, 2 years, get yourself let go, and you could have another 2 or 3 years of soft, cushiony unemployment.
What a joke this is. I mean, honest to goodness. And if I'm Jim Schwartz, I mean, because I've said with Ryan here on our show, once Harbaugh was an unrealistic possibility, that, and I actually, Ryan will attest that I threw out McCarthy's name too, but Schwartz is the logical choice. It would be his second shot after his stint in Detroit. He's been absolutely phenomenal with our defense. The players want him, yet Haslam and Barry, in my opinion, should have been fired along with Stefanski, but that's neither here nor there. But I just don't understand their mentality. What a slight this is to Schwartz, because it seems like they want this Shield House, this raw kid out of the University of Illinois, who doesn't have any head coaching experience. I mean, your take.
Bruce, they are a data-driven organization, and I know that makes a lot of fans kind of sit back in their seat because Browns fans are tired of hearing about the data. They're tired of hearing about outsmarting everybody with analytics. Browns fans just want to win. But Andrew Berry said when they fired Kevin Stefanski following his 6 seasons as head coach here in Cleveland, Berry came out and said that their list of candidates that they're going to want to speak with might look different from other NFL teams that also have NFL head coaching vacancies. And surely didn't that come to fruition? Their list looked a smidge different than Pittsburgh's, who ultimately lands McCarthy. Their list looked a little bit different from even Miami, who winds up with Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, who spent a little bit of time here in Cleveland. The Browns do things independently of the 31 other NFL teams that are out there. They're worried about the data. They're worried about the culture fit, how these guys align with what Haslam and Berry want to do here in Cleveland. And I think that ultimately leads them down the road of preferring Nate Scheelhaase to be their front-running candidate, even though Jim Schwartz had the ringing endorsement of the 2 Pro Bowl players on that defense in Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, who spoke even before Kevin Stefanski was let go that Jim would be a fit for the job. The Browns look at everything. Like I said, they're a data-driven organization, and the fact that Schwartz was under 400 in his record during his first time as a head coach, Bruce, history and the data will tell you that it's not a layup that he'll excel in his second chance as a retread coach. Some of the names that have gotten the internal promotions haven't really panned out either. You look at New Orleans, the Saints with Dennis Allen, that didn't really work out. So I think it becomes almost analysis by paralysis. And I think that's why we're sitting here midway through the week when they haven't done an interview since the weekend, and we're still waiting for an answer on who the next head coach is going to be.
The data. The data says that Schwartz wouldn't be successful necessarily with his second stint. Data on the Scheelhaase. He's 35 years old. He's only got 2 years of coaching experience in the National Football League as the pass game coordinator for the Rams. He has no pro coordinating experience whatsoever. And he's 35. What does the data tell you his odds of success are? Give me a break.
So good news, I think, and bad news with Scheelhaase. I think the good news is they really are not prioritizing play calling experience at all. And the reason why, Bruce, is they're trying to find the candidate that is the best leader of men, which is fascinating because Schwartz is a candidate that we've talked about that has the endorsement of 2 of the best players on the overall roster, and certainly the best 2 players on the defense. So when I look at this, they're probably trying to weigh who is best fit right now to manage the entire organization. Everybody from all 52 players, including the long snapper, to the senior football personnel and the advisors. The head coach really is the CEO of the organization. And I don't wonder if they're trying to set up a world where they move forward with a younger head coach candidate like a Nathan Scheelhaase and then try to surround him with as many experienced coordinators as possible. It's very important to them that they retain Jim Schwartz. That's been a hot topic of conversation on why some of the candidates shut him down.
Nick, how can Schwartz stay with this organization? I would feel slighted if I'm Schwartz right now that they are waiting this long. They had a 7-hour meeting with this Scheelhaase after the Rams lost. I mean, Schwartz has got to be feel slighted from that alone. Let alone if they hire this guy, why would Schwartz stay? So and something else that was brought to my attention, I couldn't believe when I heard this. Is it true that the Browns are making these coaching candidates write an essay as to why they want to be coach of the worst organization in the National Football League? Like this is some sort of prestigious position? Give me a break.
So it's not necessarily an essay on why they want to coach the Browns, but much more about their philosophies and ideologies and what they would want to do with the defense, headlined by Myles Garrett, what they would want to do with an offense that has a couple of all right players in Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin Jr., but ultimately needs overhauled. I think they're looking at a lot of, the logistics of what these guys would want to do, especially with a younger candidate like Scheelhaase that's only been in the National Football League for 2 seasons. He might not have that deep Rolodex of connects to build out an entire staff. So, if you hire Nate Scheelhaase, who's the running back coach? Who's the wide receiver coach? I think that's kind of what they want to see outlined in some of these essays and personality tests, because they want to make sure, like I said, data-driven organization, whether we like it or not, that's the way that they're proceeding with this business here. They want to make sure that the data is telling them, based off these personality tests and these written assignments, that they're finding the right candidate and the right fit for this job. And I ultimately think that's why you saw, somebody like a John Harbaugh gave him a 45-minute exploratory phone call, and that was it. That was it, Bruce.
I'm amazed it lasted that long. McDaniel got one of the few wins of the season for the Browns was against McDaniel. they annihilated him, and yet they were real serious about hiring him, and he withdrew his name, which tells you a lot. Udinski, Minter, Shula didn't even want to be considered. If I'm one of these candidates and I came in and they said to me, well, we need you to write an essay as to why your philosophy of blah, 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 blah. And I would say, screw you. How insulting. You guys deserve to be the laughing stock of the National Football League. It really destroys me how dysfunctional they are in every aspect except defense. And why is that? Schwartz. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Give this guy a second chance, especially with the players behind him. And just think how peeved off Myles Garrett is going to be if they hire Shieldhouse and Schwartz leaves. I'd be absolutely flabbergasted if Schwartz stays if they do hire this Shieldhouse.
Well, a couple of things on that. Myles Garrett kind of left. Everybody forgot about it because he broke football history, and then they fired Kevin Stefanski. But everybody kind of forgot that the last time that Myles Garrett really spoke with microphones around him, he kind of left things a bit open-ended again, where he said that he didn't want to be a part of a rebuild and contending for Super Bowl championships were still what was important to him, and he hoped that the moves this offseason were setting up the organization to reflect his wishes that he's ready to win. So I think you've got to factor that into the decision. I also, and the potential fallout if he doesn't agree with the situation. We've seen what Myles Garrett's capable of literally just about one calendar year ago when he went on Radio Row and he let his thoughts about the organization be known very publicly. The other piece, Bruce, to your point about Schwartz feeling slighted, and I'm not trying to, fire you up or give you any more ammo on this point, but this is the second time that he's interviewed for this job now. In 2020, when they fired Freddie Kitchens, Schwartz was one of the candidates that they had spoken with prior to hiring Kevin Stefanski. It felt like it was kind of going to be Stefanski or McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, and we've seen him have 3 different head coaching opportunities, and none of those worked. So it feels like at least
all the more reason because he was considered when they hired Stefanski for him to be even further peeved off with the Browns if they don't hire him again. If I'm Schwartz, human nature is human nature. If I'm Schwartz, I think, my God, they don't appreciate what I've done with this defense that is arguably the best in the National Football League, with the worst offense in the National Football League. They don't think I'm worthy of a second chance as a head coach. I mean, how many times can we look historically at guys that failed their first time as head coaches? I'll give you one who's not even getting into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, Bill Belichick. I mean, give me a break. I can't understand their mentality. Then again, Haslam should have fired Barry too. What is Barry's claim to fame? His drafts have been mediocre at best.
I don't know. I don't have the answer for you there. I really think that there's an element of this where, and again, Haslam said this after they fired Stefanski that Monday immediately. He hates the word dysfunction being used to describe this organization. He insists that it's not dysfunctional.
You can't call it anything but dysfunctional. How can you call it anything else?
We're one of the 3 teams still waiting to hire a coach here, Bruce, with the Raiders and the Cardinals.
The culture needs to change, and not necessarily to the extremes of hiring a 35-year-old unproven kid. I mean, my God, think how much older Aaron Rodgers is than this kid they would hire for head coach. But, I mean, I have been preaching the culture needs to change. The culture of the Cleveland Browns is finding ways to lose, not finding ways to win. And it certainly wasn't Schwartz's fault that was the case. Now, Nick, don't run away because we want to have you back in a couple of segments to talk about the championship games and the playoffs thus far in the NFL. But everybody, keep me posted down here in Florida on this Brown situation. I mean, I can't believe that we are this early in the morning recording Bonus Time with Drennan, and I am this energized and extremely upset. As I really can't understand how the Browns can even dive lower, dip lower They're the laughing stock of the NFL already. Let's go to break. I'll be right back with Ryan in a minute. Oh my God.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows, energy-efficient products at an affordable price. Visit smartchoicewindows.com today.
All right, we're going to have Nick coming back in the very next segment, but I want to go through these championship games with Ryan here. New England 10, Denver 7. The Patriots returned to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2018. Think about that. Think about what I just said. My God, the first time since 2018? Wow. Our Browns have never even been to the Super Bowl. And they make a big deal out of this is the first time since 2018 that New England is back in the Super Bowl. Oh, well. This version of the Patriots, they're real lucky, in my opinion, that they're going to Santa Clara. I thought Drake May was awful. He looked like a scared rookie in this game. I credit the Denver Broncos for not only making a game of it, but almost pulling it out without their starting quarterback, Bo Nix. The backup, Jarek Stidham, fought valiantly and did the best that he could. The weather turned horrendous, and it big time affected this game. But May and New England did just enough. Stigman turned the ball over twice. You know, New England becomes the third team in the Super Bowl era to win a conference championship, scoring 10 points or less. Buffalo beat Denver 10-7 in the 1991 AFC title game, and the LA Rams beat Tampa Bay 9-0 in the 1979 NFC championship. Mike Vrabel won 3 Super Bowls as a great linebacker for Belichick and the Patriots. Now he can become the first person in NFL history to also win as a coach. Denver head coach Sean Payton boldly predicted before the season that his Broncos would play in the Super Bowl this year, and he almost made it. You can't hold it against him since he lost his starting quarterback, of course, although I'm sure that Payton will have the entire offseason to second guess himself for going forward on 4th and 1 from the New England 14 in that second quarter. That would have given New England a double-digit lead. And for New England, this was their 40th win in the playoffs. That breaks a tie with San Francisco for the most ever. The Patriots have allowed 26 points in 3 playoff games this postseason, and the only team to allow fewer over 3 playoff games before a Super Bowl appearance was the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, who allowed only 16 points. New England has averaged 18 points per game in the playoffs, and that's the fewest by any team to make it to the Super Bowl since 1979, when the Rams averaged 15. In winning the game, the Patriots leaned on Drake May's legs for the most part, and a very stout defense. In the upcoming Super Bowl matchup against Seattle, May is going to have to use his arm a lot more than his legs against this great Seattle D. Of course, weather doesn't figure to be a factor like it was in this game. The opening line for the big game, Ryan, is Seattle -4.5.
You know, Bruce, a lot of people don't like those low-scoring, defense-heavy games. I was actually a big fan of it. I liked seeing the snow globe play in the fourth quarter there at Mile High City. I feel bad for Will Lutz, Bruce. Kicks probably should have made at least one of them, but to miss those, that just got to be gut-wrenching. For Bo Nix, Sean Payton, that's got to be absolutely gut-wrenching. Hey, what a feel-good story, though, for those kids in 5th grade in New England that get to see their team in a Super Bowl that had to wait that long to see it. But you're right, Bruce. I think the Patriots got a lot of battle ahead of them in the Seattle Seahawks. But, you know, Bruce, when you talk about Drake May being bad, it's one of those things. People aren't going to remember that. They're just going to remember him making the Super Bowl in his second year. So I think it's a pretty good feel-good story, actually. You know, I actually don't hate the Patriots as much as a lot of people do, Bruce. I'm excited for them.
Seattle 31, the LA Rams 27. As good as MVP candidate Matthew Stafford was, Sam Darnold was better. Stafford 22 of 35 for 374 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 127.6 quarterback rating. Darnold 25 of 36 for 346 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a 127.8 passer rating. Amazing. Almost identical. However, Darnold was far superior in key situations, especially on third down. Stafford failed to complete any of his 6 pass attempts on third down in the Rams' loss. Meanwhile, Darnold completed 6 of 9 on third down for 102 yards and a touchdown. Now, all season, the Rams special teams were an Achilles heel for them, and that muffed punt by the returner, Xavier Smith, resulted in a Seattle touchdown, and that turnover was a big key to the Seahawks win. LA head coach Sean McVay is a great coach, but I can't help but to second guess a couple of his decisions. Facing a 4th and 4 from the Seattle 6-yard line and only 4:54 remaining in the game, he decided to go for it instead of kicking the field goal, which would have made it a 1-point game. Now, the gamble failed, and that meant the Rams still had to score a touchdown to win the game. And on the ensuing Seattle possession, former Ram, who was with them when they won the Super Bowl, Cooper Kupp, appeared to come up short on a third down catch. The officials ruled that it was a first down, but I personally thought it was a bad spot. But instead of throwing the challenge flag, which he was holding in his hand with great uncertainty, he called a timeout. At that point of the game, what did he have to lose? I couldn't believe that he didn't challenge that spot. And if you watch the replay, it's obvious to me that the head linesman got to the play late and actually guessed at the spot. You watch that replay and tell me if I'm wrong. He was not in position to judge accurately. Now, McVay looked confused on his sideline, hesitating and making a decision. For Sam Darnold, this was a particularly satisfying victory after being cast aside by the New York Jets, who drafted him at number 3 overall, and the Minnesota Vikings deciding not to bring him back after he led them to a 14-3 record last season, and then a playoff berth. I wonder how much the Vikings enjoyed the playoffs this season watching on television. Well, this is Darnold's 5th team in 8 years, and now he's on the verge of winning it all. Credit Seattle head coach Mike McDonald for his belief in Darnold, Ryan.
Yeah, Bruce, honestly, I was really happy watching that game to see Sam Darnold win. I wish both of these teams could just play a 4th time this season for the Super Bowl, because I think that'll be more entertaining. Bruce, what I thought of when I saw Sam Darnold go to the Super Bowl, when he's holding that trophy, emotions are going, it made me realize when Dante Moore first announced he was going back to Oregon, I thought it was a bad decision. But you go see Sam Darnold, he escapes the New York Jets, they're clutch, goes to the Super Bowl. I don't blame Dante Moore for not wanting to go to the draft to get drafted by the New York Jets. Sam Darnold leaves New York, goes to San Francisco, multiple stops, learns under great people, and now he becomes a great quarterback. It just goes to show, I don't think it's quarterbacks that are bust. It's really teams that ruin the quarterbacks.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with bonus time here on the Big Play Sports Network. We'll be rejoined by Nick Padone as we continue. Brought to you by FanDuel.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
All right, joined again by Nick Padone, co-host of Big Play Cleveland and program director of our network. Nick, you heard what Ryan had to say about these 2 championship games. Your opinion?
Yeah, I was really happy to see Sam Darnold get the job done. It's wild to think that he's the first quarterback, Bruce, from that 2018 draft class that was so highly thought of, with Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. And think about all the MVP trophies around the mantles between Jackson and Allen. And it's Sam Darnold, the guy that has been, similar to our old friend Baker, passed around to a couple different organizations and really revived his career last season with the Minnesota Vikings. They decided to move forward with J.J. McCarthy, the young quarterback that they drafted. Sam Darnold reaps the benefits, though. Gets that $100 million plus contract with the Seahawks, leads them to the Super Bowl. Feels like it's going to be a fun Super Bowl. At the same time, though, I'm from here. I can't help to feel jealous watching these teams play. It's like, Seattle, you were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They weren't down for long. Pete Carroll leaves. Mike McDonald only needs one season. They're right back. Same thing with the Patriots. Brady leaves, have a couple of down years, finally get that quarterback right, and they're right back. So my lasting memory from Championship Sunday was just feeling jealousy, but I do feel like we're set up for a good Super Bowl.
Well, and Vrabel, the Browns felt him out, and he didn't want any part of this mess. So what does that tell you, too? Listen, let me get a few observations from you leading up to these two championship games. Of course, Houston beat Pittsburgh big, and as a result, Tomlin decided to, take a rest for a year. He'll be back. And then, obviously, Houston was defeated by New England. What's your take on Stroud? There's a lot of talk down in the Lone Star State about is he the answer for them?
It feels like people are down and out about CJ Stroud right now. I think this is the fun part of having a young rookie quarterback, though, or not a rookie quarterback, but a young quarterback that's playing on his first contract, is you run it back with him next year and you see what happens. You give him that next opportunity, but he looked bad. I can't deny what I saw with my own two eyes. He did look bad. It feels like he does have a tendency to kind of shrink a bit in these bigger moments. So I'm curious to see how that situation unfolds long term. Maybe he becomes the next one of these first round picks that the organization just gives up on because they think that he's not good enough. But I think he should definitely still get next season, even though it was a really underwhelming performance. And it kind of felt like Stroud specifically kind of stumbled into the playoffs, or he wasn't playing his best football even leading up to that game.
Buffalo defeated Jacksonville in what was a great game, and I think it's probably a given now that Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars are for real, and they're going to be back. And then Buffalo gets beat by Denver. McDermott gets fired, and Nix gets hurt on the second to last play of the game. What does this say for that Buffalo organization with Josh Allen underachieving, especially because their nemesis, Kansas City, wasn't even in it?
Yeah, and look, the organization is telling you, hey, it's not Josh, it's not on the players, and they fire Sean McDermott, who, Bruce, get this, Sean McDermott has a top 15 winning percentage in the history of the league, and he gets let go after that playoff exit. Obviously, for Denver, that loss stings a little bit more, or that victory stung a little bit more because you lose Bo Nix, but I think you found out that you gained a franchise quarterback there. I think everybody feels pretty good about what they saw out of Bo Nix prior to that freak injury there at the end of the game. But yeah, Buffalo is going to have to really keep their fingers and toes crossed that Joe Brady is the best hire that could extract the most out of this offense. They've got some similar issues as the Browns do, though, Bruce. They need to get a little pass catching help. Josh Allen had really nobody all year long, and it feels like that's been the story ever since Stephon Diggs left town.
San Francisco goes into Philadelphia and dethrones the Super Bowl champion Eagles. What does that say about the Eagles? All season, they seem beatable and vulnerable. And then they go to Seattle and get absolutely humiliated and annihilated. That's one of the worst losses they've ever had.
I think the magic just ran out. They were so beat up defensively, especially on that front. They were playing with no Nick Bosa. And I think the injury magic, that the next guy up was just defying all odds. They were starting a kid out of Kent State on that defensive line, and you would have had no idea against the Eagles. They were firing on all cylinders, Bruce. But I do think against a good Seattle team and a sound offense that Kubiak's running there in Seattle, I think that it was just too much, and the magic ran out for San Fran.
And then finally, the LA Rams defeating Chicago in those extreme conditions. Stafford showed why he's an MVP candidate in that overtime when he took advantage of that. He marched them right down the field to allow them to kick the winning field goal. But I'll tell you what, Caleb Williams, that play that he pulled off, and Johnson, this coach, in his first year coming from Detroit, they're going to be back Nick.
They are going to be back. There's no doubt in my mind. It goes to show coach and quarterback league. And until you've got a coach and a quarterback, Bruce, you're sitting here like us complaining about the fact that you don't have either of those things.
Yeah. Nick Padone, keep up the great work. Big Play Cleveland, program director here at the Big Play Sports Network. Thank you, partner.
Thank you, Bruce.
All right, let's take a look at how Ryan and I did last week in our handicapping. That's next on Bonus Time. Our thanks to Nick Padone for joining us here on Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. Well, I hate to say it, but Ryan has finally caught up to yours truly in our handicapping of the games with the spread. Last week, he took the Seattle Seahawks, and that was minus 2.5 points. So I had the Rams. I'm a loser there. The other game, we both took New England minus 5.5. And obviously they won the game, but only by 3 points. So the situation going into the Super Bowl, and we'll make our predictions next week, but going in, I was 0-2 and Ryan was 1-1, and now I am 55-61 on the season. Ryan is 49-55 on the season. Obviously, Ryan, we are both 6 below the 500 mark, which is certainly nothing to brag about, but you caught me, partner. So we're either going to wind up tied on the season if we have the same pick for the Super Bowl, or one of us will emerge a slight winner.
Oh, Bruce, come on. We're not tying here. Whatever you go, I'm going the opposite.
We'll be back in a minute. More to come on Bonus Time. Well, there'll be a capacity crowd tonight as LeBron James and his LA Lakers return to Cleveland for the game against the Cavaliers. They're 28-17 on the year. Cleveland 28-20. Pretty hot ticket, Ryan.
No kidding, Bruce. Hey, this could be the last time we see LeBron in Cleveland. Not in a Cleveland uniform again, right, Bruce? A lot of smoke around there in LA about LeBron running around of his graces there with Jeannie Buss and the whole Lakers crew. Hey, I know I'd be open to it. I've been saying for a while. I ultimately think it's going to happen. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, Bruce, but what a magical ending it would be if he ended his career here in Cleveland.
What a joke. I don't know if I have the words to describe what a complete joke. Belichick not getting in on the first ballot to the Hall of Fame. He only received 40 of the 50 required votes to get in on the first ballot. 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 championships, 333 wins. That ranks second all time. 31 playoff wins. That's the most ever. By the way, he's second to Don Shula. Even though he's a jerk, he's always had the reputation of being a jerk. I have never encountered a coach in basketball, in football, or a manager in baseball that I have covered in my 50-some year career that was a bigger jerk than Belichick. But that's not the point. If anybody should be a sure bet for the first ballot Hall of Fame, it's Belichick. He's the greatest pro coach of all time. How do you deny it? What is the matter with them? I don't care about Spygate and Deflategate. Ryan.
You mentioned it, 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots and then 2 more on top of that as a defensive coordinator. I mean, 8 rings is just absolutely absurd. And then you bring up Deflategate and Spygate as politics as a reason to not get in. Well, guess what? Are you going to hold that against Tom Brady in a couple of years when he's up for eligibility? No, Bruce, it's an absolute sham, and everybody in the world reacted the same way as you did. It's a complete and utter joke.
Shedeur Sanders is going to the Pro Bowl, for whatever that's worth, as a backup. Quite frankly, I can tell you how much I'm looking forward to watching that flag football game, Ryan.
I mean, speaking of jokes, Bruce, what's the bigger joke? Bill Belichick not getting in or Shedeur Sanders being named to the Pro Bowl? Bruce, Pro Bowls used to mean something. You used to look at somebody's career, their resume, and look at Pro Bowls, and that used to mean a lot, right? Now it means absolutely nothing. Guys like Tyler Huntley have been floated in there, and now in the latest, Shedeur Sanders. It's a sham.
Even the baseball, which has been the best by far, it has gone downhill. These all-star games are a joke. Hey, let's switch over to baseball, where tomorrow the trucks leave Cleveland with all the equipment for the Guardians spring training headquarters in Goodyear, Arizona. By the way, great to see them extend Jose's contract. Thursday, February 12th is the date for pitchers and catchers to report, and the schedule has been released. Thursday, March 26th, the Guardians will open up on the road in Seattle. And then they go to LA to play the world champion Dodgers before the home opener on Friday, April the 3rd versus the Chicago Cubs. And we have special programming planned, I know, for that home opener. Ryan, I'm excited. We'll get the Super Bowl out of the way and batter up, play ball.
You know, start getting ready to build those plans for that Jose Ramirez statue. Imagine, Bruce, at the end of this second extension, all the records he'll hold for this Cleveland Indians/Guardians organization. You just hope at the end of it, it comes with a championship ring and we can break that drought.
And we're going to be shifting our attention now more and more to college basketball, as Arizona and Miami of Ohio, believe it or not, are now the only two remaining undefeated teams after Michigan beat Nebraska 75-72. Nebraska's 20-1, Michigan's 19-1, Duke, by the way, is 19-1, UConn's 20-1, and Gonzaga is 20-1. St. Louis has only got one loss, but they've been playing Menor High School type competition. Nothing against Menor. Please don't be slighted by Menor, but I'm making a point that they played nobody.
Bruce, you know, Oxford, Ohio, home of the Miami Redhawks, one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever had the privilege of going to. Obviously, I went to Cincinnati. It's about a 45-minute trip there. Travis Steele's got those boys playing some good basketball. I'm excited to see them if they get dancing in March.
I'm sure they will. And it's a team like that can maybe pull off an upset or two and be a Cinderella come tourney time. All right, time for the Ask Bruce segment. That's next on Bonus Time. Reminder, don't forget to join us for next week's show. It'll be our Super Bowl preview show with Ryan and yours truly, giving you a lot of historical data considering the Super Bowl, some sidebar stories with this big matchup between Seattle and New England. That's next week on Bonus Time. All right, Ryan, Ask Bruce segment. I'm ready. Fire away.
Alrighty, Bruce, here we go. Hey, Bruce, if more ball players were like Jose Ramirez by choosing loyalty over the almighty dollar, would it be less of a need for a salary cap, and would it be less of a possibility of a lockout after the 2026 season?
The simple answer to that is yes. It's unrealistic, but the simple answer is yes. There were two exceptions even during the the height of free agency is continuing and growing, it seems, every single year. But two exceptions stand out to me besides Jose. And I love Jose for extending in Cleveland. And it shows what a superstar in Cleveland sports history he indeed truly is. But Cal Ripken stayed with the Baltimore Orioles his entire career when he could have gone for bigger money elsewhere. Tony Gwynn stayed with the San Diego Padres when he could have gone for bigger money elsewhere. But those days are gone, except for the likes of a Jose Ramirez.
Alrighty, Bruce, let's flip to the college ranks. Hey, Bruce, what were your thoughts on Arthur Smith becoming Ohio State Buckeyes' next offensive coordinator? And do you think fans should trust Ryan Day after his great hire of Matt Patricia?
Oh, yes. I don't think there's any question that he disproved all the critics last season when he lost to Michigan, came back, and won the national championship. And you certainly can't blame him this year. I mean, this Indiana team may go down as the greatest college football team of all time. I mean, we've talked about this and extended. You can't find the weakness. So losing to them, and the other point about Day, the Big Ten championship loss to Indiana. We all realized Mendoza in that offense could score on anybody, but that was the first time I realized how phenomenal. I knew they were good, but I didn't realize how phenomenal that Indiana defense was. So whatever decisions that Day makes in hiring his staff, they'll retool with the portal and the NIL. And they're already the preseason number 1 next year, so that tells you a lot.
Alrighty, Bruce, let's go back to the NFL. Hey, Bruce, what do you think scares off potential head candidates more from the Cleveland Browns? The lack of a quarterback and quality roster, or the bad reputation of Jimmy Haslam as the owner?
All of the above. I mean, what more needs to be said? All of the above. I can't add anything more.
Alrighty, Bruce, last one for you as we wrap up on bonus time. Hey, Bruce, after watching that AFC Championship game in the Snow Globe, does that make you in favor of all teams playing in a dome?
No, that's football. I'm old school when it comes to that. And you mentioned earlier you enjoyed seeing the snow game, and me too. I truly did. It was fun. And the Chicago game, the Denver game, those were fun games to watch. No, that's real football in the old days. And they wouldn't have delays. Even when there was lightning, there wouldn't be. The only time I can remember a delay was when the football all-star game was going on at Chicago Soldier Field. That was the first and only time I remember back in the old days that there was ever a delay because of weather conditions. Hope you enjoyed the show. That's all the time we have for Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Bruce Drennan on behalf of Ryan Smith. You have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio, and I love you, Cleveland.